100 food labels, that is what it took. 100 products pulled off shelves across British supermarkets. Tesco, Sainsbury, Asda, Morrison's, Lidl, Aldi, Waitrose, flipped over, read carefully, and judged not by the front of the packaging, but by what the back actually says. And here is what that process revealed. The front of a food product is a marketing document. It is designed by professionals whose sole job is to make you feel good about picking that item up and putting it in your trolley. The back is something closer to the truth. And even then, only if you know how to read it. Most people do not. And the food industry is counting on that. After going through 100 labels, 10 products stood out. Not because they were the most obscure or the most extreme, but because they are the ones sitting in millions of British homes right now. Trusted, bought on habit, fed to children, while quietly doing things the packaging would never dream of mentioning. Today on TruthCart UK, these are the 10 products that shocked us most, starting with the first one, a product that sits in virtually every British kitchen and has done for generations. Kellogg's Corn Flakes, plain. Simple. The green box, the rooster. A breakfast cereal so familiar it barely registers as a choice anymore. It is just what you buy, which is exactly why the label is worth reading carefully, because familiarity has been doing the work that quality stopped doing a long time ago. Corn Flakes carry one of the highest glycemic index scores of any food in the breakfast aisle. The number sits at approximately 81 on the GI scale. Pure glucose, the benchmark against which everything is measured, scores 100. White bread scores around 75. Cornflakes raise your blood sugar almost as rapidly as spoonfuls of pure sugar dissolved in water. The flakes are processed cornstarch in a convenient bowl-shaped delivery system, and your body converts them to glucose with shocking efficiency. But the label detail that genuinely stopped us was the salt. A standard serving of cornflakes contains around 0.38 grams of salt, more than Frosties. Plain, uncoated, nothing added cornflakes contain more sodium than a cereal covered in a sugar frosting. Why? Because the processing strips the corn of its natural flavor complexity and salt has to compensate. Nobody is advertising this. The box shows a rooster and implies wholesome simplicity. The label tells a different story entirely. The second product, Muller Corner yogurt. Walk down the yogurt aisle in any British supermarket, and the Muller Corner sits there looking cheerful and reasonable. A yogurt with a little compartment of fruit compote or chocolate pieces on the side. It feels like a treat that is also vaguely sensible. A small indulgence that still counts as dairy. Flip it over. The ingredient list on a standard Muller Corner runs to approximately 18 items. Glucose fructose syrup, modified maize starch, gelatine, carmine coloring, which is derived from crushed insects and listed on the label in ways most consumers do not recognize. Artificial flavorings, thickeners. The fruit compote compartment contains more sugar than fruit. Now look at a pot of plain phage total Greek yogurt sitting 2 feet away on the same shelf. Ingredients: milk, live yogurt cultures. 2 items. The contrast is not subtle once you see it. Muller Corner is not a yogurt with fruit. It is a dessert with a yogurt base, positioned in the dairy aisle and priced like a health food. 18 ingredients versus 2. Same aisle, completely different products. The label makes that clear. The packaging works very hard to prevent you from noticing the third product. Quaker Oats So Simple Golden Syrup, the Quaker Man. The golden oat fields, the warm bowl of porridge on a cold morning. Quaker has built one of the most effective healthy breakfast identities in British food marketing, and the So Simple range takes that identity and applies it to something that, nutritionally, is barely recognizable as the same category. The golden syrup flavor variant contains over 12 grams of sugar per sachet. For context, the NHS recommends that adults consume no more than 30 grams of free sugars across an entire day. 1 sachet of Quaker So Simple golden syrup delivers 40% of that daily limit at breakfast, before you have added anything else, before the mid-morning biscuit, before the lunch that has a sauce, before anything. The processing story compounds the problem. Instant oats have been cut smaller, steamed at high temperature, rolled thinner and dried until the cellular structure is fundamentally altered from what it was. Traditional oats release energy slowly because the intact grain structure forces digestion to work gradually. Instant oats have had that structure dismantled. The glycemic index of instant oats can approach 80, compared to around 50 for steel-cut oats. The Quaker brand image belongs to traditional oats. The So Simple product delivers something metabolically very different. The label confirms this. The packaging hopes you will not look. The fourth product. Innocent Smoothie. Any standard supermarket variant, Innocent built one of the most beloved brand identities in British food history. Handwritten fonts, grass on the bottle cap, little ethical stories printed on the side. The unmistakable suggestion that this is the kind of drink made by people who care about the same things you care about. It is almost impossible not to feel good about buying Innocent, a standard 250 milliliter bottle of Innocent Smoothie. One of the small ones, the single serving size, contains around 26 grams of sugar. That is almost the entirety of an adult's recommended daily free sugar intake in a single drink. And because the sugar comes from fruit rather than added sweeteners, Innocent can truthfully claim no added sugar. Technically accurate. Practically misleading. When fruit is blended into a smoothie, the cellular structure of the fruit is broken down. The fiber that would slow sugar absorption in a whole piece of fruit is disrupted. The sugars, fructose, glucose, sucrose, become rapidly available to the digestive system in a way that whole fruit does not produce. Your blood sugar responds accordingly. The label confirms the sugar content clearly, in small print in the nutritional information panel. The front of the bottle shows a meadow and a cartoon face. This is not a health drink. It is a fruit-derived sugar delivery system in ethical packaging. That distinction matters, and the label makes it available to anyone who looks. The fifth product. Weight Watchers Sliced Brown Bread. This one is subtle and it is clear, and it is one of the most effective label deceptions we found across all 100 products. Weight Watchers bread is positioned entirely around calorie control. The brand, the name, the packaging. Everything communicates that this product helps you eat less and weigh less. And the calorie count per slice is genuinely low, achieved by making the slices extremely thin and by increasing the water content of the bread to add weight without adding energy. But look at the ingredient list. Wheat flour, water, yeast, and then a sequence of additives that standard wholemeal bread from a decent brand simply does not require. Emulsifiers, dough conditioners, preservatives, humectants to retain moisture. The bread needs all of this because the formulation, low fat, high water, structurally compromised by the thinness, does not hold together or stay fresh without chemical assistance. You are buying bread that has been engineered to be low in calories by removing the things that make bread satisfying, and then adding synthetic compounds to compensate for what was removed. The result is a product that leaves you less full, more likely to eat more later, and consuming a longer list of additives than you would get from a standard supermarket loaf. The Weight Watchers branding is doing significant work here. The label, read carefully, tells a different story. The sixth product. Pringles Original. Pringles are one of the most ingeniously engineered food products ever created, and the label reflects that engineering with unusual honesty. If you know what you are reading. The first ingredient is not potato. It is dehydrated potato flakes, which accounts for approximately 42% of the crisp. The remainder is a formulation of wheat starch, corn flour, rice flour, maltodextrin, emulsifiers, and flavorings, a precisely calculated blend designed to create a uniform, stackable shape that delivers a very specific textural experience. Every Pringle is identical because every Pringle was manufactured to be identical. This is not a sliced and fried potato. It is a potato-flavored composite food product pressed into a mold. The salt content is around 0.5 grams per 25 gram serving. Almost nobody eats 25 grams of Pringles. The tube format, specifically chosen because research showed it encourages continuous eating, means that a typical snacking session delivers multiple times the stated serving. The label is accurate. The serving size it references bears almost no relationship to actual consumption behavior. Pringles know this. The tube is not an accident. The seventh product. Dolmio Bolognese Sauce Original. The jar that sits in millions of British kitchen cupboards as the reliable Tuesday night shortcut. Convenient, familiar, marketed with Italian imagery and the suggestion of home cooking done right. A standard jar of Dolmio Original Bolognese sauce contains around 17 grams of sugar per half-jar serving, and most households use the whole jar. The sugar comes primarily from the tomatoes and onions, which sounds natural enough, until you notice that additional sugar has also been added to the recipe. Sweet, concentrated tomato paste, reduced down and then further sweetened. The label lists sugar as a separate ingredient, distinct from the tomatoes. Both are present. The salt content across a full jar reaches levels that account for a significant portion of the daily recommended maximum for an adult. For anyone cooking from a jar believing they are making something genuinely home-cooked and nutritionally sound, the label on a Dolmio jar is instructive. The jar is not the equivalent of a sauce made from scratch. It is a commercially produced condiment with sugar and salt levels calibrated for palatability rather than nutrition. The Italian flag on the label is a design choice. The ingredients are a manufacturing decision. The 8th product, Activia Strawberry Yogurt by Danone. Danone has faced regulatory action in multiple countries for health claims made about Activia products, specifically claims suggesting that the live cultures in Activia provide digestive health benefits beyond what standard yogurt cultures provide. In several jurisdictions, those claims were found to be insufficiently supported by evidence and were required to be removed or modified. The label on Activia Strawberry in the UK still carries the Bifidus actiregularis branding, a proprietary name for a strain of bacteria that sounds scientific and specific and implies clinical benefit. What the label does not prominently communicate is the sugar content, which runs to around 12 grams per 100 grams in the flavored variants. For a product positioned entirely around digestive wellness and gut health, consuming 12 grams of sugar per 100 grams alongside those live cultures creates an obvious tension. Sugar feeds harmful gut bacteria as well as beneficial ones. The probiotic and the sugar are working in different directions. The plain Activia, no fruit, no flavoring, is a meaningfully different product, but the flavored versions, which vastly outsell the plain on British supermarket shelves, are essentially sweetened dessert yogurts carrying health positioning that the plain versions might more legitimately claim the 9th product. Hartley's, no added sugar jelly, no added sugar. It says it right there on the front of the packet in bold, reassuring text. For parents buying a treat for children, for anyone managing their sugar intake, for anyone trying to make a slightly better choice, no added sugar sounds exactly like what you want to hear. The sweetener used in Hartley's no added sugar jelly is aspartame, along with acesulfame K. Both are approved food additives. Both appear on the label, in the ingredients list, in small print. The product is legally labeled correctly. What the front of the packet does not tell you, and what the back communicates only to those who read it, is that aspartame is one of the most studied and most debated food additives in the regulatory system. In 2023, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified aspartame as possibly carcinogenic to humans. Not definitively carcinogenic, but warranting further investigation. The European Food Safety Authority reviewed the same evidence and maintained that aspartame was safe within acceptable daily intake levels. The debate is genuinely unresolved. Science is ongoing. What is not debated is this. No added sugar does not mean no sweeteners, and the label confirms that clearly. The front says no added sugar. The back lists aspartame. The distinction matters, particularly for parents who interpret no added sugar as meaning the product is free of sweetening agents entirely, the 10th product. Kellogg's Special K Original. We saved this one for last because it is possibly the most effective sustained deception in the British breakfast aisle. A product that has maintained a health and weight management positioning for decades, while delivering something nutritionally at odds with almost everything that positioning implies. Special K is marketed as a weight management food. The red packaging, the slim font, the calorie counts displayed prominently. Everything communicates that choosing this cereal is a responsible act of dietary self-management. Millions of British women in particular have eaten Special K at breakfast, believing they were making a sensible health-supporting choice. The label tells a more complicated story. Special K Original contains around 4.5 grams of sugar per 30 gram serving. But the serving size is 30 grams, which is approximately a small handful. Few people pour 30 grams. Most pour 60 to 90 grams without measuring. The sugar content scales accordingly. More significantly, Special K is deliberately low in both fat and protein. That combination produces a cereal that digests very rapidly, spikes blood sugar quickly, and leaves the person who ate it genuinely hungry within 2 to 3 hours of breakfast. The fiber content is minimal, barely 1 gram per serving. There is almost nothing in this product to slow digestion, sustain fullness, or provide the kind of lasting energy that a genuinely nutritious breakfast delivers. The fortified vitamins on the label look impressive. The percentages of daily recommended intake appear substantial, but synthetic vitamins added to a refined carbohydrate base do not deliver the same nutritional outcome as vitamins consumed through whole food. The bioavailability is different. The label shows the numbers. It cannot show you what your body actually does with them. Special K is refined carbohydrate with a weight management marketing budget. The label, "Read honestly," confirms this. The packaging, "Read as intended," conceals it entirely. That is what 100 food labels revealed. The pattern across every one of these 10 products is the same. The front of the packaging is a commercial document, professionally designed, legally reviewed, and carefully constructed to create an impression that may or may not survive contact with the back of the box. The back carries the actual information, the nutritional panel, the ingredient list, the additive codes. The serving size is calibrated to look better than real-world consumption. Reading a food label properly is not complicated. Look at the ingredient list before the health claims. Ingredients are listed in order of quantity. Whatever appears first is what the product is mostly made of. If sugar, oil, or an additive you do not recognize appears in the first 3 ingredients, that tells you something the front of the packet is working very hard to prevent you from knowing. Your trolley is a vote. Cast it with your eyes open, TruthCart UK. Because the label never tells the whole story.